Welcome everyone to the 279th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, June 6, 2019. This is a broadcast from the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute and as part of the public teachings in English. My name is Rick Crammond. I'll be your host today along with Flint Malhausen. And we'll be joined and directed with Mr. Keshe of the Keshe Foundation, who is available and willing and able to carry us through this workshop today. Mr. Keshe, are you ready to begin?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon to you. As usual, wherever and whenever you listen to these Knowledge Seekers series of teachings. It is interesting to be back, and it's very interesting to understand we are one step closer to the peace what we came here for. In the past 2-3 weeks, we have targeted the peace directly, and in a way to call it the end of the wars, the end of the battle for mankind. Whatever is left of the past will be cleaned up, and what we set out will be completed. As you know, I went to some details, in a way coded message to different administrations, and in response we seen the administration responding the right way. The week before we explained and we saw the response on the following Monday, Iran announcing having a special 2 new what we call technologies unknown, and then we saw the American response. Last Thursday we invited President Trump to Iran on the back of the peace talks, and we saw the first opportunity on Saturday in Tehran, Iranian government announcing that they are prepared to negotiate, they're prepared to talk. And we saw the same thing from American administration on Monday. We have no conditions set for talk. It's the first time America has said there is no prior condition to talk. So the moves are getting done. Everybody is still does the both diplomacy in the open and diplomacy in the back. As you remember, when we got involved with the first talks, the peace talks with the administration of Obama, it took us 2.5 years to reach the 5+1. This time is much easier because up to now, nobody was aware of each other's. In a way, it's like what we call a cockfight. You put the 2 cocks in front of each other and they try to measure it up, but they think they know the other side till they get there. And in so many ways, we encourage both administrations, civil government and the American administration. Tehran is the venue for peace. Tehran is venue for talk. And we will see the same thing goes. The nation of Iran calls on the American nation to come together to arrange peace the right way. And the request goes to the Office of His Excellency President Trump. You are invited. We wait for your response. You have to understand, sometimes in some corners or some quarters, nations understand when the other side is as powerful as me, I have to talk. We had to show the power again in past 2 weeks, and we showed the power very strongly. And the American administration understood peace is the only way. As I said to you, remember, in past few years, the Russians managed to stop what we call the Donald Cook naval ship of the United States, and it was dragged back into Romania, and 27 officers resigned. In the past time, very recently, the American naval forces tried to intrude to provoke an action by Iran. And they sent in a battleship called Mason in the territorial Iranian waters of Hormuz. And they were surrounded by the Iranian fast boats, but non-missile armed. Remember last week what I told you. But what happened is that the battleship Mason could not communicate once it got into the territory of Iran with outside. We can give you a lot of details about it, But within half an hour, the American military decided to withdraw the battleship out of Strait of Hormuz. And we saw, in a consequence of backwards of it, Mr. Trump announced that wants no war with Iran. As I told you in a coded way last couple of weeks, that if we could manage to do such a beautiful thing to stop a war using the new technology, it's been the answer we've been praying for. But on the other hand, I said, if we can stop a battleship communicating with its bosses, and the bombers who can by mistake seeing nothing on the radar and bombing the Saudi Arabia instead of Iran, which is a 100% possibility, then you know why the peace talk has taken place. This time peace talk is on each other's strength. It's not that we can destroy more. We tested each other, and we are both, Iran military, shown we are not aggressive. We are a peaceful nation, and we saw the outcome. You have to understand that the head of Mason, the chief captain of the Mason himself, after coming out, he said he did not know what to do. In a way, he was panicking. There is no need to panic. Please withdraw your missiles, bring the ship back into Ahvaz. We welcome you on a peace mission, not on aggression. And this time when you come, you'll find out you have friends in Iran. It has to be said, it's the second time American naval forces have been shown there is more technology sits outside America than America. And it's a good way, because now these technologies can be used for advancements of man into space and betterment of life for all of us. I thank the Office of Iranian Presidents, I thank the Office of American President in understanding there is time for talk. And as I said, the Iranian government is preparing themselves to receive President Trump in Tehran. That's an open invitation. But you have to understand, Iran has a problem. Iran has a huge problem, which now the administration of the American government has come to understand. The problem is called John Bolton. John Bolton is a monarchist. He's committed himself to the Iranian monarchy, the old regime. And he's fanning the fire of war to bring them back. We can show you a lot of pictures with him standing around the Iranian old flag with a lion. When we say there is no time and no place for monarchy or kingship, does not apply only to one. It's all over the world. People have to decide if they want a king, but not forced by inheritance. Therefore, now we understand Mr. Bolton was and has been paid to create war, to bring Iranian monarchy back to Iran. Iranian nation has to decide on what it needs, not but outside by Mr. Bolton and his people. You have to understand they are connected to the other monarchies in around Europe, and you have to understand a significant in what I just explained. Those of you who are familiar with the work of what you call Masons and the Illuminatis, you have to understand why the American naval forces, headed and pushed by Mr. Bolton, was using a battleship called Masons. This was to show that the Vatican has taken over, and that was a big loss. You have to understand, couple of weeks ago, when the President of America was in Japan, he ordered the ship which carries his opposite part in the coming up election to be hidden in the background and not to be shown in public, because that name was so important. Now you understand why the battleship Mason was. It had two reasons. One, declaring the win by the Vatican and Masons and Illuminatis over Iran, which the ship never got. It was a coded message, then they will start. So my condolences to Vatican. We invite you, the same, the Pope, to come to Iran with President Trump. Unfortunately, they don't give peace prizes to the men of God, because their job is to create peace and not war. Now you understand a lot. I speak openly because this openness needs to be understood by all of us. Now, you will see in so many ways our knowledge, our technology, in different ways and different parts, has pushed people to understand there is another way, there is alternative way. We have to be strong. We have to have all the facilities to be able to defend the planet Earth, not from the universal community, but by the eventualities of all the physical damages which will come. Some of it we have created ourselves. Some of them is a natural process. Some of it is being part of the universe come to us in the shape of meteorites, in shape of asteroids. We have to understand, as we see meteorites coming into, or asteroids coming into the atmosphere of the Earth, our solar system gets the same thing from the universe. The same thing happens in the same shape. Some of the meteorites we receive on this planet are the remnants of what has entered from the galaxy. And some of it is the remnants we entered from the universe into the galaxy, and then into the solar system, and then into the atmosphere of the planet Earth. So we see different types of meteorites, we see different type of things. And some of these meteorites, through the construction of them, can be interfered with plasma fields that we can open them up. Some of them we can handle them with a high frequency. Some of them we can use the present satellite systems that interferes not only with the military, but with the dimension of the noise of the plasma itself, which changes the course. This is how our body absorbs energy from the plasma of the body. The bone of the man vibrates in a way that it calls in what it needs from the gans. It's the same thing. It's not that somebody sitting there catching a plasma which is good for, let's say, a cancer cell, or is good for immune system. It's the tune, the noise, the music of the universe is played in the body of the man. I explained in the teaching of the medical teaching, if you get a chicken, or if you see a bone of the man, look at the structure of it, the curvature on the top, which is like a stranded. These are what he plays the music to call in the, what we call the lymph into the body of the man. So the planet Earth plays the same tune, and it calls in. The universe does the same thing, solar system do the same thing. So in a way, the new technology which we have developed will come very handy for the man, as you can travel with the speeds beyond the speed of light, beyond the speed of sound, beyond many speeds we know. As you understand, there is a new technology which has been released, as we know, that you can go what they call super fast and everything else. This technology comes on the back of the Keshe Foundation development in nanotechnology. You have to understand, the speed is how relevant you can change the friction in atmospheric condition. What does this mean? It means for those of you who will start traveling this part of universe, you will see, you have to do, it's not just that we can make shielding with everything else. What you will see in what is known as the super speed, Russians have said they bought it, as we know. The Chinese are at it. The Americans would love to get their hands on it, but the simplicity of it is that all of you understand how the plasma and nanotechnology have mixed into the new space era. When you have a plane, most of the energy of a craft is used to overcome the friction of the resistance from direction of the motion. If this is your aeroplane, which I'm not very good at, that's what it does. The new space technology, the new rocket technology, the neat dimension is, we know, as I said, with Concorde, we used to get the nose changed and we used to go faster. Now the space technology has moved to another dimension. Americans with the shuttle system, they made what we call popcorn, and they put it there on the resistance of the entry that they could survive. But if you understand the totality of the knowledge in the plasma technology and what most of you have made in your kitchens, in your bathrooms, in your garages, in your laboratories, is that you made the ganses. How did you make the ganses? You nano-coated it. The nano-coat material, if it's used like in the brake of a car, will need more energy because it's got a space gap. If you use in a specific way ahead of rockets or new material, slides the wind. The friction literally reaches zero. But the beauty of it is that the nanotechnology material on the warheads or on the missiles we target on a, let's say, meteorite, does not heat up. So the body stays cool. So it has two effects. One is frictionlessness. The other one, at temperatures which might reach, there is no heat transfer. You get a nanomaterial in your hand and put it in a fire and pick it up, you can hold it. Now you understand why the new super speed flights are getting place. But at the same time, within the structure of these super speed flights, they create a plasmatic dimension, which gives it the second additional field cover. Americans are searching for this. Come to Iran, we show you how. But we use it for peace, we use it for space technology. This is when, if you read the articles, Russians and the Chinese and Americans, and unfortunately, as I said, the Russians stopped the American ship May of a few years ago, and Iranian in May of this year done the same thing with the Americans, again in the high seas. Now we open another dimension to our friends. We can reach Washington in milliseconds. So we talk peace, we understand the new technology, and we understand, we appreciate the next level of the science which is coming through. And it's the job of all of us to do this. We are busy with a lot of things, but at the same time, being busy developing a situation like what we have done and what we achieved with China has not distracted us from other things like the factories and everything else. We needed time to consolidate and put things right. And many of you who done some work around the Keshe Foundation, or you're busy with us, that's what we are busy developing. Very advanced systems. And it takes time, energy, and a lot of things. We are all investing in peace, investing in the future of our children. And this is what is about to come. We got to understand the technology, when it's open, we all benefit by it. The technology, when it's discussed openly, nobody can abuse the others. In very interesting way, we all becoming the passengers of the universe for a short time, but that short time has to be peaceful to all of us. In the discussion of last week, Caroline brought the subjects about the global warming and what we're going to do. There is a very fundamental point that cannot be ignored. We have to understand. As I explained before in the teaching, one of the reasons we are getting warmer is that we are getting pulled towards the sun. That's part of the gravitational pull. The other thing is the creation of the CO2 has been the backbone of creation of life on this planet. What we see, especially like with coral reef and other places, there is a new addition to the equation, which is the production of the CO2. The oceans of this planet can take many, many times more than what CO2 we are putting in the atmosphere if there is no heating. So what happened? In so many ways, the carbon CO2 changes into acid. And temperatures at a certain point is a point of conversion. And when that heating point of conversion comes in, that's where, in fact, the chain of amino acid breaks up. You do not need to be a genius to understand this. And this is what is sitting with Keshe Foundation technology in coming time. You say we have CO2 and then the temperatures have gone up, we are losing all the, what do you call it, planet underwater life or over the water life. Yes, but understand the reason behind it. Understand the science behind it. All of you, you know, when you have a high temperature, you pass 42, 43, they try to cool you down because gases in the condition of the amino acid of the man at a given temperature break up to a new structure. In a way, the carbon and the nitrogen take a nosedive because the temperature dependent on the hydrogen, which is releasing its energies, becomes in a different strength. So if you understood, if you talk to the man of medicine, they tell you after 43, 44 degrees, the brain cells just die. They don't just disappear. They don't get destroyed. It's just the amino acid has a temperature inertia relationship in the body of the man and on this planet. So what we see is the same thing happening to this planet with a slight temperature and the presence of the acidity of the water, and we are losing all the coral reefs, we are losing the plants. But there is a message of peace in all this, and this is the reason what I speak, and you might understand, and this is a part of the technology which the Keshe Foundation in the coming months will develop and will release. We don't need to develop it, we'll submit it in other ways. Understanding this position that all the lives on this planet depends on Mr. Cohen, we have to understand the effect of what we call a temperature, or due to the inertial matter state of the planet. If knowledge seekers understand this and understand the energy transfer, then we understand how global warming, what the mankind calls today, can be reversed in no time. Chinese Keshe Foundations understood this, but in a different way 2 or 3 years ago. At the same time, if we understand the connection between the heat and the CO2 that it creates to the end of the life of planets and everything else, then we understand mankind has seen the first time a new dimension in handling its environment. If mankind understands this, you have found the solution to everlasting life. You have found the solution to everlasting food, or what we call energy supply for the body of the man, even for the soul of the man. If you understood the connection between the soul of the man and the physicality of the man, and you learn how to feed the soul of the man, then you have become a true man of the universe. Because in the process of coming in interaction with other in the universe, or a human being, you look at the dimension, strength of their soul, and a strength that that soul can manifest itself in physicality. The principle of knowledge, intellect, environment, physicality is the same across the universe. Man is not unique, and the uniqueness of the man has no limit. We are not limited to what we understand. In a very short time, we all understand plasma and plasma technology. It's amazing how this knowledge is spreading around the world. And how governments are using it, utilizing it, understanding it, and applying it to their own benefit and to the nation's benefit and scientific benefit. In many of the teachings, I refer to the field interaction. I refer to interaction of the life. I refer into how we can change the position of the man in zero time and space. There are principle, operational understanding, and every man can make the light, every man can make the soul, every man can make anything that he desires to have. We have to understand now the connection between the soul of the man, the energy of the soul of the man, and Mr. Khan. This is a piece of knowledge which is missing. And mankind need to understand, to be able to do another part of the living in the universe. What does this mean? This means a very simple thing. If you look at it, you have Mr. Cohen. You look at it as a gas. Protein on top of the water of CO2 box. You give it to a doctor, he will tell you this is the structure of the light. We call it a protein. Life depends on this. That's how we get. But we said in the teaching of last week that the soul of the man becomes the common denominator between many Kohans, who we call the body of the man. And this brings it under control. So this, if you remember the teaching of the past, very, very first time, if you go on the first videos ever we released about the explanation of proton and electrons, it was done. You understand in many of the teachings I refer, mankind for the first time can make magnet of anything. If you have a wood and you have iron, you cannot make the magnet of wood out of the iron. But if you convert the matter of iron to its plasma state, then you can choose whatever you need. But on the other hand, if you have a plasma of the wood and the wood itself, you can interact with it, because then now you have found the magnet. So if you understood this, it comes to one fundamental principle. The soul of the man has the characteristics of Mr. Kohan in a magnetic field gravitational strength. Then if you understood this, and you understood that you eat the grass, you eat the fruit, you eat the lamb, and you get it in protein to add by energy but not as an element, then you should be able to communicate both ways through the soul of the man, understand the energy of the soul of the man and its physicality. The way which I explained just a few minutes ago, that we can dissolve a meteorite by releasing amount of energy to it that it can never come. We can create a condition of the plasma to manifest the meteorite in the matter state too. This is how we make the matter. At the same time, if we understood this, so shall this be the soul of the man, and this be the physicality of the man. Then those of you who are testing for flight, those of you who see light, those of you who are speaking about all sorts, look into this and see what you have missed. Do not look into the matter state or the effect what you see in matter state. Look in what you can do with the field interaction. There's an old say by Kennedy, huh? Don't ask what America can do for you, ask what you can do for America. You ask what you want from the physicality, and ask what can I give from physicality to spread my soul beyond the dimension of physicality. Because man is only interested and works with the physical dimension. For him, the soul is a dream which was out. Now this guy has come and put it in. When it was out, they could abuse me in the name of God, which they never understood. Inside me, I am the protector. I am in touch with God. I am the creator of the physicality of myself, and I can control the dimension of it if I understand how that soul of man works. It is important for all of us to understand one thing very clearly. We have to go back into teachings, and in many teachings, I said the condition, and we go back to the writing of the prophet of the past. They say the maturity of the man comes when he can mutate, understand the mutation of elements. With a new technology, we understand the mutation of energies, not elements. We went from copper to gas, and we became gold. Now we go from the soul of the man into direction of the energy of it to create the physicality of the man. But what we said in all the teaching, man has matured to the point of completion where now he can go through the same process and create the energy out of matter and matter out of energy. So the soul of the man can make the physicality of the man, and that physicality of the man energy can make the soul of the man. There is no difference in the dimension of the creation. Just different names for the same process. Now, it's not just mutation of elements, it's the mutation of energy, that it can lead to another energy that if it likes, it interacts and it shows itself in the totality of the presence of the physicality in the eye of the beholder. If you understand this, you can create brain cells. If you understand this, you can create copper, gold, or silver in the space, if it has anything. And in so many ways, in a space, there is no currency. Banks only exist on this planet, and printing machines are part of the man's intelligence to print money, to control. As we've seen, mankind has taken one step backwards and two steps forward, and over centuries we have got more and more and more mature in understanding the totality of the business. But how far the science of man goes? What are we prepared to accept as part of the knowledge? As I said before, we start polishing the technology, because all the knowledge of the universe has been taught. Now you have to understand how to play, how to manipulate, how to structure, to achieve, to be able to deliver, to be able to attain. If you understood this, what is on the screen, then you understand how life will be wonderful and easy in the span of the universe. If you are looking into the strengths of the soul of the man, it means you did not understand the teaching of today, and you have not managed to put all the teachings together. We structure energy, and in that structuring we decide the condition of energy or matter of that energy. And something which a lot of people in the future would understand is that energies can manifest themselves in any condition of the matter. This is one of the interesting things if you understand. And the same goes with that. So what this means, if you understand in depth, very simple. On planet Earth, the life of the man, the energy of the soul of the man is created through the strength of the Kohan. If you take the soul of the man, which has the strength of Kohan, to another dimension, which let's say is Kohan, which is with potassium and the carbon, then you'll be dissolved. You cannot exist unless you understand this principle. So life becomes everlasting in any dimension of the universe. Many races in space have lost and converted to different, what we call strength, because they did not understand this process. So when you enter a dimension of the strength of the universe, which is higher than you have to understand how to change the strength of the Kohan as a plasmatic field of existence to some Mr. Kohan, which is in the potassium level. So man can mutate in the energy level in any point of the creation, as long as he understands when he wants to convert into the GANs of the state, he has to watch the matter of the state too. Because one of the most fundamental problems with mankind is a new problem. We said in the process of their life, between the interaction between the sun and the earth, in the field interactions, we saw the creation of the amino acid. Now, what and how we never understood is that there is a plasma in the center of this planet. And this is very strange, because now man went all the time to his present understanding from energy and conversion to the matter, whatever it became. But now we understand a new phenomenon. Energy to GANs, and if you want to energy or matter. This is the new game, new state of the matter. Mankind can change itself into a new condition in between the two. And a new form of existence appears. The body of the man is made in this, but at the same time, in a GANs state of itself, the body of the man carries the matter state too. We call it the bone of the man. because it's in a matter state, partially, where the muscle of the man is in a GANS state. So if we understood this, then we understand what we assumed, that we go from energy to mass. In between there is a GANS. Where in the GANS state we have manifestation between the energy and dimension of the physicality. And this is the reason why you see your gases in your containers. So for the first time, man understands he missed in between. And there are many, many in betweens. Mankind knowledge is not to grasp that at this moment. So now we understand what you always all been familiar to. With a little bit of explanation, you understand what you are dealing with. A state of matter between the energy and a matter state. In a way, if you look at it, Gans is a camel bird, what they call ostrich. If you ask him, if your energy, show us the star, he cannot do. And you say, if you are a matter, and you show yourself, say, why don't you become solid? And this new state of energy is new to man. And if those of you who understand this, understand that this carries the totality of energy of the Kohen in every dimension in the universe according to the point of manifestation, then you understand that life is for everlasting. Then it comes, do I create a soul to be perfect, that going through the transition of existence of the GANs still will be perfect, and when it manifests itself in the dimension of matter, still is perfect. In the chemistry, mankind came to add, let's say, zinc and copper and whatever, he made alloys. In the dimension of the energy, mankind came to mix different elements of the GANs, and it ended up with life. There is no difference. In a matter state, you get alloys. In an energy state mixing, you get life, you get intelligence, you get what we call the creation of the soul of the man, the universe, and the rest of it. And if you introduce the right amount of material and the inertial strength, you remember we said inertia is when the matter state comes to energy of the matter level, then it manifests itself as a matter. In the body of the man, this state comes with the bone structure of the matter. So inside the memory, inside the brain of the man, inside the soul of the man, there is a code for matter state too. Because if you go on planet whatever, and there is no gravitational magnetic field of the calcium, you become pot of jelly on the ground. But if you want to have a physical structure, what kind of matter state you bring into play through the direction of the soul of the man, that it can hold the structure if you want to be like a man. Now the science of existence becomes very sweet. Now we need collection of scientists to get together. We need to bring the elite scientists of the world together, and we'll do it as what we call the Keshe Foundation way, that we decide, we invite world scientists to join us to complete this cycle for man to be able to be taught to enter space. And this process needs maturity of understanding and peace on this planet, because in a way You don't need to kill. What we did with Mason, we can do with the bone of the man. Man will do the same in the space to himself if he doesn't understand the conversion of the gases to new strength that it can survive in any direction and any dimension. Then, if you understand the totality of the conversion of the gases as an energy, then you understand the speed of light is non-existence. If the scientists understand the totality of interaction of the fields, what mankind is looking for as zero-time communication, zero-time energy, zero energy point of reference, all become irrelevant, which means the zero time, as I said many times, is the point you start, because the energy and the plasma and the fields are already there. To you is the non-existence, and to you is how to tap into it. Listen to the teaching of today many, many times, and your soul will get enlightened. And if you live in the dimension of physicality, hang on and live for billion years. We have to extend the knowledge to understand the totality. We put ganses in the cores and we do different things with it and nothing happens. We get ganses, but in that gans, in the core, we interact with the energy of the gravitational magnetic field of the soul of the man, and the ball lights up. The same, the matter would manifest itself, or the energy. So the soul of the man does not have time and space and position. The soul of the man has a point of manifestation according to the point of the observer. Man sees me with 2 legs and 2 arms. The passengers of the universe do not see the physicality of the man, they see the soul of the man as a light, and the extension of the light. And it's for the man to decide how bright this light shines, how it clears itself of all the, what we call absorption of the fields, what we call the blanket on the soul of the man, which is the brain of the man, and rest. If you have the capability to work and operate at the strength about amino acid gravitational magnetic field, when you look at the man, you only see the soul of the man and the stars, which are the souls of every cell of it. So the soul of the man becomes the God of that body, the creator of that body, the creator of all these souls, which is a collective interaction of them makes the physicality of the man and the dimension which the man wants to manifest himself to confirm his existence. As I always say, do I need to teach more? Or is mankind deaf into understanding the totality of the work of the universe? You have to understand, and the creation of life, the examples of the life, is in front of the man. But we never understood the totality of it because we always looked at the physicality of it. Now we have, as I said, we call it the CO2, in interaction with the water makes acid, And interaction with the acid has done it for years, billions of years. It has led to creation of more life. Now, with us reaching and partially changing the magnetic gravitational field of the planet, now we heat up. Now the matter state interaction has interacted with a plasma insertion of the what we call the gas of the matter. And this disintegrates the whole energy back to taking the soul of the plant, not the physicality of the plant. This is important. When you look at barrier reef, the plants are there. Physicality, conformation of existence there is the soul of the plant which has left the plant due to the fields which what we call the amino acid of the plant, or the structure of the acidity with the temperature, have created a new strength which is matching the strength of the soul of the plant and the plant. And that's why we see so much barrier reefs are disappearing. Now we have to understand the truth, not being on two boats and not knowing what's happening. Saving all the problems in the what you call the oceans and in the whatever the plant world, it's easy if you understand why the plant leaves the tree. Its physicality, we burn it as a wood, and we just call it that it's a dry wood. Is there any difference between the tree which is dried and is dead in that physicality and the physicality of the man when the soul leaves the body of the man? It's just a lump of gases with different strength that is liquefied. So there is no difference. So if within the structure of the amino acid of what we call CO2 and a slight interaction with the field of the heat, the soul of the plant can leave it and to become in another dimension. So how easy shall be for me to take the soul of the president who wants more? But would that solve the problem? Or what we have said in a very simple way, let collectively man to come to understand that there is no need for creation of the conditions to separate the soul of the man from its physicality, when the time of the separation in acceptance of the two, what we call the natural death of separation, is not decided by the soul. In stopping war, the man not to kill themselves, man does not live for the rest of the universe time. It's just that he decides on the point of the reference of the conversion from energy to a gas, and from gas back to the energy of the creation of another dimension. That's all it is. We are in reality nothing but that chicken in the chicken farm. We are nothing but that pig in the pig farm. When we have pig swarm, flu which has come and millions of the pigs died, we say there is a disaster. What is the disaster? Just because we haven't chosen the time of the slaughter of the animal, but the process at the end is the same. It's disaster for the man, he cannot consume the physicality. How can we breed animals to the point that when we want to consume their amino acid is the correct conduct? But when the nature does, there is something wrong in that process. And why does the process come into operation? Why? What have we done to the animals that they collectively wish their own end. When you go into a farm, you see pests on the tree. We done the Keshe Foundation test many times. We change the environment, the pests disappear. We don't do anything. It's the environment of the damage to the soul of the animal that creates all these new diseases for animals and man. Because we are not content in the body of the physicality of the man. We have become that acid with the temperature. Is the suffering with the interaction of the soul, with the interaction of the soul of the physicality, which raises the temperature, that releases the dimension in a way by calling the soul of the animal at the strength of life to become, to be releasing the pig from suffering in the, what we call pig farm, that the man does not choose the time of the end, the animal chooses that point itself. And this is the God-given right to every living things in the universe. At the moment, with the physicality of the body of the man, we commit suicide. But in the dimension of the energy and the gans of the body of the man, we can allow that the energy to be converted to what the environment likes to have. Then still you can live in the dimension of the physicality and the totality of the process of the existence in balance in the universe. Many of you who have started working on creating the systems which create what we call ganses and souls, if you understand these, you should become passengers of the universe in no time. But understand the interaction of the change, and if you put a matter state in between the change, then you have limited your position. Many of you cannot create flight because of these, because you never understood what's been explained on the board. Then you can choose, you want to fly within the matter state, or you want to fly within the state of the energy of the matter. The science of creation is so easy. Enjoying it is so wonderful. It's just a man who has decided to eat himself and enjoy himself the wrong way with this technology, which is the technology of the creation of the man or life in the universe. The conversion, can it be at the level of strength of the soul? The conversion can be at the strength of the level of the physicality of the man, or can be both, that you have a solid bone and a muscle tissue. Let me explain to you something maybe you understand. We drink and we eat. Have you ever stood still to think in the conversion of energy to matter within the body of the man? We drink water, it goes through our system. But at the kidney level, in respect to magnetic gravitational field of the earth in a given position, it converts back into matter state and we urinate. But in the body of the man is not there. You cannot separate water or another cell of water because it's all energy packs. If you understood this, you understand how to feed the physicality through the soul of them. I hope many of you have understood this, because this needed explanation. This needed to be, for those of you who are heading towards understanding the strength of the soul, those of you who are heading towards wanting to create a flight system, those of you who are trying to achieve lift and motion through the school of the thought of the man, you all been given, every one of you, the tools according to your understanding and your intelligence. None of you is wrong, and none of you is right to be wrong. It's just that you have to start knowing what you want and how you mix that energy to reach that point. It's very much like if you were in the school in the first years, the teachers brought different paints, different colors, and they mixed it for you. Red and green gives this color, blue and red gives this color. And this is exactly about the soul of the man and condition of the existence of the man. And then you understand how even mankind has come to have different color races. He's so proud of his own stupidity because he never understood. In the coming time, if you are, for example, black and you want to be white, plasma technology will do it for you in no time. And if you are white and you're in Africa, you want to look as beautiful as Africans, why not? We just change the feeling. Hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So we had a bit of interruption. So your white man comes to have. Now we can do the same. In the course of the interaction of the soul of the man with the universe, these things become very common. It becomes part of the process of understanding. It's part of the structure of understanding of the work of the man. It's not that we do not know anymore. Now we know all of it. We know A to Z of it. It just depends on us. Do we like to play with the A or the Z? But is A the creator or Z? It depends on what we want to produce. It depends on what we expect of creation. It depends on, do we want to be part of this creation? But do we want to elevate our souls to become the level of the soul of the creator? It's very much exactly like what we see in the clockwork. You start from 1 and you go to 12, but at the same time the 12 becomes 1. The 12 at noon becomes the 12 at lunch, and back again on the same time. The switch is on the state of the mind of the man, not on the arm of the clock. No one has said mankind has to work during the day. Mankind has chosen the path to be working during the day, because in the past, when the dinosaurs were alive, mankind as a what we call being chose to be in the roots and in the, under the ground, because it was safe for him to be there. We changed the habit because we understood what it benefits us and what we can gain from it. So this process has to be understood very, very fast by those of us who become the passengers of the universe in a very short time. Many of you want to know a lot more. What is the outcome? Where are we going to end? Nowhere. You decide where your soul ends, not mine. I decide I want to be in the party you are, and you decide if you want to be in the party I am. Most probably no. Most probably you want to become passenger of the universe by soul. How do we recognize the strength of our soul? This goes back to, in a very simple way, how did we come to understand the strength of our intelligence? Because in that point, mankind becomes and understands the strength of the soul of the man. This is what, as a whole, we need to understand. We need to be part of, that we can elevate to higher levels in understanding of the creation. No more. We don't become any better than the others. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. And as usual, I'll remind the attendees they can put their virtual hand up in order to ask a question. I'd like to put forward. Can you hear me, Mr. Kesh? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello, Mr. Kesh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Somehow I could not hear you. Can you hear me speaking?
I can hear you now, yes. It seems a little bit distant, but...
Yeah, it's okay. We have some problem with... What did you hear up to it? Did you hear me asking if you have any questions?
Yes, and I was about to... I would like to present Bente's question, which you've answered already in many ways, but I'd like to refer directly to it, which is, she says she's restudying from the 260th Knowledge Seekers Workshop onwards, where Mr. Kesh talks about black holes. And he says the soul is one, the earth has one, the galaxy has one, etc. And Mr. Kesh talks of traveling in space. My two questions are, one, how can we determine the field strength of a planet or galaxy we want to go to? Two, how can we match that exact field strength in our soul or spaceship if we use such a thing, such that we can travel to that place?
So you've decided to become the passenger of universe. When you're trying to find the key. Am I correct?
Well, it seems like that, yes. I wish Bente was here to ask to say that. I could find out if she's on the Facebook and has a comment about that. Well, she asks, how can we match that exact field strength in our soul? So is that perhaps the technique in itself, the answer to the question in a way? the first question, how can we determine the field strength of a planet or galaxy we want to go to? And then if we were to match that planet or galaxy with the exact field strength in our soul, would we not be there? Would be the question that I would put in.
The soul of the man, or the operation of the physicality of the man, has not understood the work of the planet, and have not understood the work of the field interaction of the planet, and has not understood the totality of the interaction of the field of the matter state. I've explained this before, and I was explaining it this week to one of the knowledge seekers. And that is, you can have one, let's say, field force of 100, and plus 10, you get 110. Or you can have 110 of ones. And in the work of the life of the man, we have always looked for that we can create as much as big ones to get fast to 110. But if you look on the work of the universe, like Earth, the position and magnetic field of the Earth is created from many ones, not from huge ones. This is important if you want to travel to a position in the universe. Many ways, this misunderstanding has come by the teaching of Newton. Newton has expressed the position of the matter state, not the position of the plasmatic field state. This is what the scientists who work with the Keshe Foundation technology become very fast wise to. This is something which many of you have to comprehend before you can take into flight. Before you can go the next step in understanding of the totality. We have to understand the totality of the knowledge. And in that process, because of the Newton laws that they say the more force you exert, the faster you go, this does not apply in the law of the plasma of the universe. And if you look at it, the weaker plasmas lead to creation of the motion and creation of the existence of the matter states in the control of the totality. We don't have a massive field force which dictates our position in the universe. It's those little magnetic fields of the totality of all the stars has dictated the position of this planet. Even the star you see in the furthest distance has dictated our position. And that's why we see its light. Because that connection already exists, because he has decided how far from it we can be without endangering or changing his position. So our scientists have to understand this. Then we can go to the next step. We are looking to create massive magnetic fields to create lift and motion in space. We have to look into the weakest, but the totality of the point of destination. The closer you get, the stronger the field becomes. And then it's a very easy, if you see a star, it's where you are, where you want to go. If you see a planet, you can recognize it. It already has sent you the address. GPS is on the light of it. But mankind has never understood this. We do not want to understand this principle. Until we don't do, we will have a problem. We see the star has already sent its GPS. So what we see, what we understand, and what we have to understand is that the stars, what we see, they sent us their bandwidth, their strength. We are used to seeing the light, but in fact, what we see is in so many ways the totality of what we don't want to, or what we cannot see, is still, there is a bandwidth of it. And when we become educated that we need to have both gravitational and magnetic fields of a planet position, then we'll find out that we can do everything. We can reach any soul, we can reach any point in the universe, and by having that, we already know the position. We are looking for noise to reach us, but that noise has a return, is magnetical and gravitational. When the mankind starts decoding both fields, you find the source. You will find the totality. And this is part of these teachings which we are going through. That in a way, up to now, we just looked at the distance of the planet from us. But we never considered that distance is created by two dimensions. Not only by the dimension of the physicality of the light, but what that light is taking from us. It's understanding what comes to us is returning back, is taking something from us, that we dictate its position and it dictates our position. If in a coming time, when we have more money to spend on development of the space, and our governments start spending less on arms, all these things will be sorted. Because then we start really understanding the totality, the measure, the space gap, the gap between the magnetic fields of the planet, magnetic field of the universe. We will understand the separation between the field strength of the soul and the field strength of the planet or the galaxy, because we are not educated yet enough to understand the mixtures of the galaxies, mixtures of the fields. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you fine, but your screen sharing hasn't come through yet.
No, I'm trying to screen share with another line, but apparently we have a lot of problems. It doesn't matter. So I have a screen share in front of me. Whiteboard is there, but you don't see it because I wrote to you hello before you didn't see it. I said I'm here, you didn't see it.
It's just black right now. Now we see a whiteboard.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Now I understand. So in this process, what you have to gather, what we have to gather as knowledge seekers, as the scientists of the space, is what we always taught in all our teachings. If you have two entities, this be your soul, this be your physicality, this be another star hiding behind many, 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 many stars. Does not matter you see it or not, but you know, you hear a measure. You can't see it, is in the background. If you can measure it, don't forget, by understanding it, it has a return. The difference between these two and man detecting the return, he can fly back on this magnetic field. Because the field forces of this planet, does not matter what else, has dictated the position of this planet. And as I said, the same as us. The state of the planet, we always look at the light of the star which comes to us. We never think that that star sees our light too. That star, as much as we see its light, it sees our light. So what we receive has a feedback of the gravitational and the magnetic. We have to understand which one belongs to this, which planet. Then you can travel on the magnetic field of that star to the star in zero time. Up to now, we only look, we see the star, there's a star in the sky, and it's this and that. But you forget one part. If I can see it, it can see me too. The field forces of the earth has conditioned it as much as that conditions me. This is the next step in understanding totality of the zero time travel. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Yes, really. So now we understand another step. This is what the science has to establish. It's the same. This is the soul of the mother and is in touch with the child. It's the child which has to understand the feedback line to the soul of the mother, because the mother is already established a line. Doesn't matter if she's in a physical dimension or not. And that's how we, in a physical dimension, we lose the physicality, but in the strength of the soul, we're still in touch with the mother. And in time, when the soul of the mother, in interaction in the cycle of life, if it comes to another dimension, which it loses the power, it loses its strength, and it becomes part of or dissolves into the other, is the time that we lose the totality of connection with that soul. You have to understand, the soul of the man does not last all the time, has the same condition of everything else. It gives and it takes energy, but by the order and the way it works, it lasts longer, slightly, maybe by a few thousand years, by a few years, a few million years, longer to be collectively together. We are nothing but conversion of energies of the universe. and nothing, nothing lasts except the soul of the creator, which is the creator of the whole. So as mankind has managed to measure the light and the distance, now mankind has to understand the magnetic field strength of both coming and going, and which one belongs to whom. And there are so many of them. You have, as I said in teaching many times, there are as many we are keeping apart from us as they are coming to us. We dictate the position of the star we never seen in another universe because our field affects it, even though we are tiny. So the creation of the soul of the man, the creation of the magnetic field, the soul of the planet, is of the very weak, not of the strong. I was explaining this to knowledge seekers very past couple of days. And how these two will twist and interact will decide what matter you manifest. I hope we made it clear. It's very strange when you start teaching or explaining something, others of the same school of thoughts, of the part of the world, come up with the same answers or same questions, same school of understanding. Mankind does not look too far to make the most complicated space reactors to travel the span of the universe. Mankind, only thing is to understand the weakest strength which is coming and which one goes back. It's very much like if your mother calls you, you know this is the voice of the mother and you answer to the mother. And if your brother talks, you say, I've got nothing to do with talking to somebody else, not me. But even I can hear him and I'm aware of it. Because now we have to find the gravitational magnetic field of the feedback or the return, what we call the gravitational to the planet, magnetical to us. The ear of the mother is gravitational, is receiving. The voice of man is magnetical, is what she's sending. When you shout, mother, does anybody else answer you? Yes. No, only the mother does, because you have created that point. It's the same. You want to even get in touch, be in touch, understanding of the soul of the man, you have to understand you don't need huge, you just have to find the path. The energy for transfer is already there. This is why very, very small reactors can carry millions of tons, because you don't do anything, you just get on the wind. Because you create a slightly bigger, heavier gravitational in that strength, and magnetical in return, in respect to the planet. So what does it do? It brings you to find balance point. In the space technology of the future, we never fly this way. We fly, we fly, we fly, we fly. Because these diversions gives you higher speed or conversion into the speed, not going through different directions, dimensions. Or you can choose a direct path of light. Because going this way is too dangerous. The new space technology, if you understand, is very simple. I'm sorry, our Russian friends, I'm going to open something for you in the hand of understanding. You can fly to keep within a bandwidth of electron. Two ways. You can keep on changing your magnetic or gravitational in respect, or use on Earth, you pick the moon. You fly past moon, you change the gravitational magnetic field of the Earth. By throwing yourself back and forth, you keep a constant fly high speed. There are many ways to fly in space. You have to decide, you're flying in a matter state, you're flying in a gaseous state, you're flying in a magnetic field strength. Are you flying in the composition of magnetic and matter state? If you have a problem, look inside your body. You see the whole work of the universe is inside the body of the man. But understand it from the plasmatic field transfer, not from man understanding of matter state. This is the problem most of us have. We mix things up and then it causes problem for us in the long run. Are there any other questions?
Well, I just like to comment, and I see that Doug's put a comment that's similar, that at one point there, you, in your diagram, you reminded me of when I was a child and I had a flashlight and I'd be looking up at the sky at night and flicking the flashlight on and off with the thought that I was communicating somehow with those who were in space. And now I'm thinking, perhaps
maybe you did.
Maybe I really did, yes. Because if you are connecting, then you've already connected. And whether that light ray from the actual flashlight actually gets there or not is irrelevant, because the connection was essentially already made. So,
but, carry on.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, but I thought if you think of it, what I said, how many aliens did you attract into your torch?
Well, this is it, and it shows up later in my life, and you know, now this is what we're talking about, and it's very interesting to see the progression. As Doug says, as a children, we used to lie down on the back lawn and look into deep space at the visible stars and wonder. We asked the question, are there some kids looking back and asking the same question?
Most probably yes, but most probably they read the Bible, or what we call, they heard the message of the soul than the physicality of the body of the man.
Yes, and they may have had several heads and many arms or whatever, but they would be still a child.
How many times have you stood in front of us and says, I'm here, can you see me? It's just we had it now. I'm trying to write to you and everything. I can hear your voice, but you cannot see me or hear me. It's a one-way traffic. Today we have a presentation from Jim from Australia in regarding the agriculture. The paper is getting published in the journal of this month. And it's fantastic. It's part of the work we've seen from Jim before. And part of the work we have to develop and to do to understand more about agriculture and everything else. Before we do this, I said this before, now we're coming to the point of it, we have to put structure to it, is that the foundation, in conjunction with the Chinese partners, which are the financiers, we are setting up what we call research center of excellence for scientists from China and around the world. We are looking, we will invite, somebody's microphone is open, we will invite a number of eminent scientists to come to this point of working with us. We are looking not huge numbers, we have to we hopefully have to sort out the things, the budgets of it out now. But we are looking to bring Keshe Foundation plasma scientists into this world. And it's something we try to sort out in the next few days. Is part of our joint collaboration with our Chinese partners. And that is, we are looking for scientists, Keshe Foundation scientists, to work hand in hand next to the world scientists, Chinese and non-Chinese. And then, most probably, after working close here in China, you go back and we carry on with the same work through other Keshe Foundation developments. And we take the step further. This is in construction, we're getting it more or less putting it through. A number of, and I say, just because you made Ganses does not make you a Keshe Foundation scientist. We have many people who make Ganses. If you have developed, you understand, we try to bring the world scientists together, not the elite scientists, those scientists who have understood and can work within the structure of the new plasma technology. We would like to bring you into China. The budget is allocated, but it's going to get allocated, and what we need, we structure. And I'm looking for scientists who can work with me. We are not making the mistakes of the past, as we allowed some people get close to us, but you work within the structure of the scientific world, international scientific world, with eminent scientists in direction of the plasma technology and development of new sciences and technologies. People who can go step further, people who can expand the knowledge, and they can work in the dimension of the plasma and not in the dimension of the matter state. We are looking into hundreds of scientists. We're not looking in one or two. China has become the center of excellence for space technology, and we are putting the things together hopefully in the next few days. And we want to know, we like to know those Keshe Foundation scientists who understand and can bring a new dimension into the school of thoughts. And then there's a lot of possibilities. 100% you'll be based in Beijing or around Beijing, and 100% all the total involvement will be in the plasma technology for peaceful application. And so, as I said, we are looking for scientists now. We have come to the point of everything is set up by the Chinese, ready to go. We invite scientists of the world to join us, and Chinese, and I'm looking for scientists of the Keshe Foundation. If you have achieved something which can show, and we see there is a possibility of the expansion to the benefit of the knowledge, you'll get invited here, and the standard salary is paid by the standard procedures of the scientific organizations. These are the financings by the Chinese side of the Keshe Foundation. And so we are setting up this structure, and I would love to bring Keshe Foundation technology scientists to join us in any field of science. Of course, if you understand, as we have achieved peace, we don't need any weapon technology because there is non-existence. We don't need that. But in the space, we are very looking for people who understand and does not have priority and privilege to nobody who's made some gases and some machines. If you can show physical effect that we can build on, or you can come up with a school of thoughts that we can get it experimented to see can be done and develop, we are in that position. And it could be anything from agriculture, space, environment, the health, and in all dimensions. So you become part of the what we call universal scientist. gathered in China. China will become the center of excellence between Tehran and Beijing. We start building this thing up in the coming time. And in a way, we move, it's a reward of being peaceful nations, if you understand it. When you were a good boy, you were given a gift or a prize by the parents. This is the gift. Those nations were the peaceful. And they fight for the peacefulness of the others. And so you will see this, the initial structure here is to bring the world scientists to expand the plasma physics. We have, from the Chinese side, no financial limit. There is no limit in what will be spent, as long as we bring new technologies, new sciences, and application of the peace. It's what we call the peace dividend. When you don't spend money on arms and killing, you have money in saving life and developing new technologies. For those of you who are in the agriculture of the Iran, we'll meet you tonight, as is your time, as the cash technology in agriculture and farming is expanding throughout Iran. This evening we are teaching the Iranian farming and farmers as they have adopted into use of the gas technology in a big way. Today, this evening, if you are listening and you're part of that group, we'll teach you this afternoon. We'll be there this afternoon to improve on the harvesting, where what you call it, Iran becomes national self-sufficient in grain as part of the Iran national food security, same as China. And Iran has taken in a big way in rice growing and things as we understand it. And I thank the Keshe Foundation Iranian team for your hard work. And hopefully, as we teach the Iranian scientists, we teach the Iranian farmers, as they have started using gas technology in their work to create what you call a self-sufficient nation for food. Jim, are you there? Are you ready to take over?
Yes, I am, Mr. Keshe.
Would you like to go and step down till you finish?
All right. Do you want me to go through both of them or just one?
You can go through one today and one next week. It's all in your hand.
Okay. So I'll do the first part today.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I'll leave it to you. Do you want me to stop sharing a screen?
I'm just going to sort out quickly, and then I'll be able to. Okay.
You're coming in. Yes, go ahead.
It's all clear. All right.
Yeah, we see the
okay. Yeah. So this is the first part, two parts of the paper. This is the first part, and it was there to sort of investigate the nutrition in the food and to see whether using the GANs would have any effects on nutritional values in food. So I will just read through this there's a bit of an introduction where modern agriculture conjures up a lot of debate around different farming practices. You know, does one till the land or not till the land? Do you only surface till the land? And then there's the growing organically versus conventional chemical farming using biodynamic principles or permaculture, growing food in soil versus growing food in water or hydroponics. So these are all the debates which are happening around the world today. And each one has its own supporters and naysayers as to which one works better than the other one. But I think we can all get lost in this debate because I believe we have lost sight of one of the main principles of farming, and that is to grow and provide the most nutritious food, irrespective of how it is grown. When you go to your local grocer and you see the beautiful array of fresh tomatoes or different vegetables, how do you know which one gives us the most nutrition? What nutrients are we getting when we purchase a particular tomato? Because we don't see a list of nutrients on our tomatoes or carrots, so we're not sure what we're buying. But when we buy any other food or box of food from the store, it lists its ingredients and nutritional values. So why are we not doing the same for our freshly grown produce? The link between food and nutrition and our health is well established and an obvious connection. And we're told by nutritionists and doctors that we must eat a healthy diet, including fruits and vegetables. And they're correct, but how much of the fruits and vegetables do you need to eat every day to ensure that your body is receiving enough nutrition? If my food is so depleted of the vitamins and minerals, do I have to eat 3 times as much just to keep me healthy? And has the nutrition of our food declined so much that this becomes a contributing factor to the poor state of our health? So the objective of this experiment was to determine if we can increase the nutritional value of plant using GANS plasma solution. Following this report details the methods that we used in soaking of the seeds in the GANS and then allowing them to grow and then conducting different nutritional tests on the plants. So I'll go through the method used. We used daikon radish seeds, and we used 2 batches for our testing. The first batch of seeds we soaked in the GANS, and these will refer to the plasma radish. The second batch, we only soaked those seeds in plain distilled water, and then these will be referred to as the plain radish. So both batches of radish plants were watered with our standard nutrient solution, which contains the following minerals. So it's sort of a typical formulation for sort of hydroponic growing. So there was calcium, nitrogen, iron, potassium, magnesium, sulfur. So that was in our solution, which we water our plants with. Now, the development of the plasma science and technology, and especially in the GANS, has its benefits on both plants and animals, and it's the leading edge of science today. So with this report, we can't go into the depths of all the different background technologies of this. So you obviously know the different websites that one can go to. All right, so what we did with our seeds is we measured out 35 grams of daikon radish seed. We then took 1 ml of the GANS solution and we put that into 500 ml of distilled water. And then we poured this water, see in figure 5 there, poured this water into the radish in the container which had the radish seeds. And then we placed this container on a warm heating mat, covered it up with another lid and put a blanket over it. And we left it there for 24 hours on sort of a low temperature to help with the germination. This photograph shows you the seeds after the 24-hour period soaking in that water with the GANS. What we then do is we then just drain off that water and we then spread the seeds out onto a bed of cocoa fiber. Now the cocoa fiber contains no nutritional value at all. So we just put it in one of our trays, spread out 35 grams of seed there evenly across the entire tray. Then that's the picture of once we had allowed the seeds to germinate. That was the early days. And there's just side views of the radish as it was germinating. Now, during the germination stage, we didn't add any further water. And once they'd reached the stage of about 1 inch, then we start watering. And what we had done was we watered sort of twice a day, and every time we use 40 mils of our nutrient mix. But then on 4 occasions, we used an additional 2 mils of the GANS that we added to the water, and we watered the radish with that as well. So we used very small amounts of the GANS when you look at the overall amount that we used with when you diluted it with the water. There's the picture of the radish that has grown after 8 days. There's just 2 further side views and a close-up view of that radish after 8 days of growth. The following pictures just show you the root growth that is achieved. And this is something that we're always amazed at, is the incredible root growth that we always see when we're using the GANS on any of the growing of different plants. There's a side view of the root growth as well. What we then did is I washed the plants to get rid of all the cocoa fiber. And so we did this about 10 times, each time refreshing with clean water to get rid of all the cocoa fiber, because I was washing the plants with the roots. So we didn't cut them as before. And then we just placed them in a spinner, a big automatic spinner to get rid of the water. We did this 2 times so that we just get all the excess water off the plants. So there, the picture at the top is what we're left with, is the daikon radish with all the clean roots. And when we measured that mass from the tray, it was 424 grams from our 35 grams of seed. We then did just a couple of measurements of the plants, just with the total root length. So there were various sizes of growth. There was nothing really on a consistent basis there. So that's what we had done. So we had then sent off 200 grams of the plant mass off to a laboratory at the Southern Cross University here in Australia for plant tissue analysis. And then we had kept some more of the plant, which we're going to use in the Pfeiffer circular chromatography test, which we'll explain next week on those results. And then the balance of the radish we just put in the fridge just to evaluate the shelf life again. Now, so that was with the seeds, with the GANS solution. Now we did the same procedure again with the radish seeds, but just with, in this case, plain distilled water. So again, we just added the distilled water with the seeds, allowed it to soak overnight for 24 hours. So we followed the same procedure. This again was done a week later. I didn't do this consecutively, well, the same day, because I wanted to make sure that we weren't exposing, trying to eliminate the effects of growing in a GANS environment. So the first batch was done 1 week and the second batch was done the following week. And here are the pictures again of the radish after 8 days of growth. Again, the root mass also showed very good growth. And then again, we washed the plants to remove all the cocoa fiber, and then we weighed these plants. Now this batch with the 35 grams gave us 476 grams of plant mass. So that's slightly more than the plasma radish, 46 grams more. But because we had grown it over 2 consecutive weeks, we were coming into our change of weather here. And so we have noticed over many years of growing that any slight change in the weather does impact our overall weight that we get every week from our radish. So those conditions do affect it. And then we measured the roots of these plants, and then again we sent off 200 grams of the root of the plant to be analyzed, and we kept 50 grams for chromatography test, and then the balance was put in the fridge. So those are the two batches that we'd worked with. Now, as I said, we'd done separate grain periods, 1 week apart, so that I could at least control and finish what the growing of one batch, and then we started on the next batch. Our previous experiments had shown that when we use the GANs, the field effect of using the GANs is quite large. And so if we had to sort of try and overcome the field effect of using the GANs, we would have had to sort of grow on either another farm or at least 50 meters away. So I knew that by growing these radish plants within our environment, they would be exposed by the GANs fields that we had used on all our other plants and on the farm, because there's bottles of GANs everywhere. So I wanted to see whether by not soaking the seeds, we could still achieve some effect on with the field environment of the GANs. And this test results don't show that, but on the chromatography test we'll show next week, we definitely see an impact on the field effect. So the samples were sent off to the laboratory, and these are the results that we got back. Now, the testing that was sent for, we'd gotten results back on the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, carbon, calcium, magnesium, sodium, and then some of the elements of copper, zinc, manganese, iron, boron, molybdenum, cobalt, and silicon. Now, I've created a few tables of these just so that we can show for comparison. It's a lot easier to read. So there's some bar graphs. So what we've done is the blue bars is the plasma radish, and the red bars is the plain radish. So we can see when we look at nitrogen, almost identical. The phosphorus was, the plasma radish was 1.5%, and the plain radish was 0.99%. Potassium was the only one that stands out, where the plain radish had a higher value of 5% versus the plasma radish of 3%. Sulfur was identical. Calcium, we'd seen quite an increase of 1.2 versus 0.64. Magnesium was a lot higher at 0.81 versus 4.7. And then the sodium was also higher on the plain one versus the plasma radish. So those are those elements. I'd separated out carbon because it just distorted the bar graph. So there's the carbon for the plasma was 44.4% versus the plain radish seed of 39.6. And these are the rest of the elements that were analyzed. So we can see, again, the blue is the plasma and the red is the plain radish. Now this shows milligrams of copper per 100 grams. And here we have 43 of plasma versus 16 of the plain radish. Zinc is 85 versus 50. Your manganese is 73 versus 49. Boron was 25.30. Molybdenum was very much the same, of 1 and 0.9, and then cobalt again higher at 0.6 versus 0.2. These are the iron results, iron and silicon. So the blue is the plasma, red is the plain. We have 310 versus 198 on iron, and 523 versus 460 for the silicon. So what I've done is I've just done a summary here on the results, so it's a lot easier to read. So all the ones I've done, the plasma radish, plain radish, and then whether there's a percentage increase or decrease. And the green is where the plasma radish is higher value than the plain radish, and then the red is where we've seen a decrease. So when you look at that overall, we've seen an increase in the sort of elements within the plant, the plasma radish, compared to plain radish. And these are ranging from sort of 10 to 62% increase in the different mineral components of the plasma radish compared to the plain radish. So overall, we can see that using the GANs, we certainly are increasing the plant's nutritional potential. And as we had used a nutrient solution on both batches of radish, this already gave them a good base of nutrient which was available for them. But using the GANs, it had shown a marked increase in the mineral values of the plasma radish. Okay, so now we looked at the comparison and valuation of the plant growth, just the overall visual appearance between the two. On the left, we have the radish grown with the GANs, and on the right, the radish with no GANs. So visually, we don't see any sort of difference. In this case, the plain radish looked a little bit taller, as I said, because of the different growing conditions from one week to the next. But on the surface of it, they always look the same. The root growth was also very good on both of them, comparing the root growth. Really no difference between the two. There's the bottom view and side view. Now, these experiments were done in our autumn period, so these are ideal grain conditions for our climate. And over many years, our experience has shown that during the heat of the summer and then during our cold winter months, we've experienced poor germination of our seeds in the past. But since we started soaking the seeds in the GANs, we've had a very high germination rate, even during our very hot summers and winter months. And we always achieve the spectacular root growth during these periods as well. So, as I said before, we've always seen really consistent root growth in all of our plants that we grow when we use the GANs. The shelf life, there we just put some of the rest of the radish plants into the fridge. Now, the shelf life is basically how long your produce will last in the fridge from the time that you've harvested it. Now, this is critical for both farmers and the shopkeepers to have produce that lasts as long as possible. Now, prior to using the GANs, when we were growing our radish, we only really achieved around 14 to 16 days from time of harvest to when the produce had turned yellow and was unusable. And our previous experiments a few years ago showed that we had increased the shelf life to a minimum of 3 times. So we were getting up to 45 days where the plant was still looking very good. And in that particular experiment, the radish lasted 180 days in our fridge before it had turned to sort of a bit of a yellow mush at the bottom. Now, these sets of photos show this is the radish, the plasma radish, after 26 days in the fridge. So this was the 12th of May. So this had already been sitting in the fridge for nearly 4 weeks. And it still looks very, very good. This was the plain radish after 19 days. There's certainly a difference, a lot more yellowing of the plants when we compare to the plasma radish there at 26 days. So again, it's showing the increase in shelf life of the plants using the GANs. These were additional photos that we took. So this photo at the top there was 34 days in the fridge up until the 20th of May. And the bottom one was 27 days in the fridge. And there you can see it's now become quite unusable. And that was the plain radish at the bottom. So they're 34 days in the fridge for plasma radish that is still looking very, very good to eat. So it shows again the benefits of using the GANs. Now, as we've said, for the past couple of years, we've seen this extended shelf life that the plasma radish exhibits. And we've seen now that with our test results, we've seen that using the GANs and soaking the seeds with the GANs, we've increased the nutritional, the mineral content of the plants, so we've increased the nutritional value. But one has to ask the question now, is the increase in nutritional value solely a benefit of an extension of the shelf life? And through the understanding of the plasma science, all living beings, including the plants, all made of GANs. And each plant type will have its own magnetical gravitational field strength, which is made up of trillions of cells. These organces with their own field strength. And the combination of all these plasmas gives us the overall magnetic gravitational field strength of the plant. Now, the addition of the GANs then allows the plants on an individual plasma level to increase their magnetic gravitational field strength. And I think we'll show in next week's presentation the real effects of this increase in the maggrav strength that we've achieved on these plants. Now, the decomposition of plants, when we look at what plants are not lasting long in the fridge and are decomposing, they occur when the cells lose their field strength to the environment. And the lower the maggrav strength, the quicker they will decompose, resulting in a shorter shelf life. And the higher the maggrav strength of your produce, the longer the shelf life. So the GANs is interacting with the plants on a sort of individual plasma level, giving and taking of the fields. And this effect of longer shelf life is really best achieved when the produce is treated with the GANs from the seed stage and throughout its growing period. Now, when we have a look at a bit of the history on nutrition of plants, some historical perspectives here, I had a look around and found some interesting information. And many studies have shown, done comparing the nutritional value of produce grown from 100 years ago to today. Now, this shows the nutritional value of a simple apple, over 78 years. So in 1914, when they did the analysis of the apple, the calcium was 13.5 grams, and phosphor, iron, and potassium, and magnesium. Now, they did the same test in 63, 92, and 1992. And as you can see, the decline in calcium was 48%, phosphor 84%, iron 96%, potassium was only 1%, magnesium was 82%. So over time, we've seen a steady decline in the nutritional value of just a simple apple. Another way to show this data was how many apples I would have to eat in 1992 to get the same nutrition as one apple in 1914. So for calcium, I would have had to eat 2 apples in 1992. For phosphor, 6. For iron, 25 apples. Potassium, 1. And magnesium, 6 apples. So this just illustrates the decline in the nutritional value of a simple apple over the last sort of century. And I would love to do the test today to see where we are actually sitting. Another graph that we found was illustrating the decline of nutritional value of a cabbage, a lettuce, tomato, and a spinach as a combination, also between 1914 and 1997. And there we've seen the graph when they looked at they took the average of calcium, magnesium, and iron in those 4 plants, and they totaled around 400 milligrams in 1914 In 97, it totaled 75 milligrams. So we saw a decline of 81% over those 83 years. Then to summarize, so one would have to eat 5 times the amount of cabbage, lettuce, tomatoes, and spinach in 1997 to get the same nutrition that it gave in 1914. The decline in the nutrient value of our food is partly due to the degradation and destruction of our soils over the decades. We've gone from small-scale farming to commercial-sized farming to feed the world's population. Now, the use of fertilizers in the soils is like a drug addict who always needs another fix. And when you start down the road of using fertilizer on your farm, you eventually destroy your soils, so that over time you need more and more fertilizers to get the same growth. And most farming today is unsustainable, and food security for many nations is becoming a top priority. As there are many farming methods, so there are many ways to tackle this problem, each one coming from a different perspective. So a holistic approach needs to be taken, one where we can increase the nutritional content of our food, while at the same time we can regenerate our soils. At the same time we can remove toxins from the soils, while creating an environment where the plants, animals, and humans are happy. Now, this may seem far-fetched, but with the development of plasma science and technology for space travel at the Keshe Foundation, we know that all of the above can be done at the same time using the GANS technology. Now, as we've shown over the last century, the nutritional value of our food has really shown a steady decline. It's not the plants that have changed so much, but rather the conditions in which they are growing. And this information of poor growth has unfortunately been passed on to each successive generation of new plants through the seeds. This information, as magnetical and gravitational fields, has been added to the DNA and RNA of all the seeds. Growing with these seeds today means we're starting then from a much lower base. This implies that the plants have the potential to provide us with very high nutrient values if given the right growing conditions. Now, plants growing in very poor soils and conditions will still grow, albeit looking small, unhealthy, and susceptible to all sorts of pests and diseases. This would be sort of your minimum condition for the plants to sustain itself. And I believe this is what we are facing today in feeding the world's population. Now, plants grown in perfect conditions, not wanting for anything, will grow to their full potential, the best radish or carrot that it can be. And history has shown that the potential of the plants. Now, the results that we've shown of increased minerals in daikon radish by soaking the seeds in the GANS solution is giving us an indication that we can increase the nutritional content of our crops, allowing the plants to grow to their full potential. By increasing the health of the plant, you're also reducing the prevalence of any pests or diseases. And the same comparison can be made in people. A healthy, fit person will not be susceptible to diseases compared to a very overweight or unhealthy person. Now, in previous trials conducted by Mr. Keshe, the Keshe Foundation, it has been shown that soaking seeds in GANS removes the layers of information of the conditioned environment of the past, and that soaking of wheat seeds brought it back to its original grass. So it must be understood that we are not changing the genetics of the plants to achieve these higher nutritional levels. All we are doing is allowing the plants to grow and thrive under all conditions, and in so doing, the plants will have a higher nutrient level because the potential already existed in the plant. We're just allowing the plant to express its full potential. This application of soaking the seeds with the GANS, obviously the way I've done it is not commercially viable. but I think it can be done if we add the GANs into a seed coating mixture that is currently used. Artificial coating of seeds is used to improve handling and for the delivery of protectants, symbiotic microorganisms and micronutrients, and germinating promoters. So all this has already been done into the seed coating that is of seeds around the world. And I think by adding in the GANs into this mix, we can then easily achieve sort of ease of distribution of the GANs with the seeds, thereby eliminating an additional cost for the farmer to distribute the GANs onto his farm. The addition of micronutrients in the coated mixture with the GANs will allow a better connection to the seed and the plant as a whole. Now, the GANs is added to the soil through the seed coating, thereby aiding in the overall regeneration of the soils and the microbial life in the soils at the same time. And this will have a long-term beneficial impact on the soils and environments, plants and people. It's like for every seed that one puts out there, it's like a little GANs reactor that you are planting in that soil. So if you imagine thousands of acres of seeds with all that GANs there, will create incredible effects. And with that, your whole environment of the farm can be changed with the addition of the GANs. My understanding, it's acceptable. This will be an acceptable method of introducing GANs to commercial farmers who tend to be creatures of habit and don't like to change too much. Further investigations, as we stated before, our plain radish was watered with our reservoir of rainwater, which does have bottles of GANs in the water. The whole area in which we grow has many bottles of GANs and certain plasma devices which we've been playing with over the years. And so the question is how much of this plasmatic environment plays a role will require further investigations. And some of the tests that we've done on the chromatograph show the effects of this, which you will see next week. Now, the health impacts on society. Eating produce that is grown with the GANs of an extended period will have a huge impact on the long-term health, both physical and emotionally of people. Our experience over the last 3 years in supplying our local area with the food grown with the GANs has shown some interesting behavior patterns. We have built up a dedicated following of clients, and sometimes when we can't supply, the customers get quite upset that they can't get their supply of lettuce, and it's almost like they become addicted to the benefits of nutritionally and emotionally improved plant produce. Our demands over the winter colder months does not decline as much compared to the period before we started using the GANs. So in conclusion, using the GANs solution increases the plant's nutritional potential, allowing them to physically and emotionally thrive. The emotional benefits of using the GANs for the plants and the humans and those that we eat and cultivate is an additional sort of unquantifiable benefit. The results in these experiments are essentially a snapshot in time of the life of the plant. The figures will change as the radish grows to maturity and throughout the growth stage. Now, the seeds collected from these plants will contain new DNA and RNA information for future generations of plants and potentially increase nutritional benefit even further. The increased shelf life of the plasma radish is confirming previous experiments that we have done. The increased nutritional values can contribute to this effect, but I don't think it accounts for the overall significance of the increase in the shelf life. And this is where the real benefits of using the GAN shows itself. Just by doubling of the shelf life will have profound benefit for small-scale farmers around the world. Their ability to bring their crops to the market with less waste will have a direct effect on the financial well-being of the farmers and the community as a whole. Nations can grow the same amount of food today, but can feed more people, as there will be less loss of food while getting it to the markets. And if the food contains higher nutritional value, then we end up with a healthier nation. Further testing of this will be done, as this is just one experiment which showed a marked increase in benefits of using the GANs on the seeds. And that is the end. If there's any questions.
Thank you very much. Learned a lot, and it's extremely nice the way you done things. The experiment with interesting is, what gas did you use for this? Just one?
No, we had a mixture of CO2, zinc, CH3, and sea GANs. The GANs made with the seawater.
Which means everything on this planet God has created.
Yes.
What we noticed over years' experience is, as we say, the horses for courses. Not all the gases apply and give the same effect to the same material. If you change your gases even by the ratio, or if you eliminate part of some gases or add some other gases, you can change the growth of the harvest, or you can reduce it. This time you see the reduction, but you see nutrition value increasing. This is part of the research which we'll see coming up, is that we have to design specific gases for a specific grain or product. And then it's not just because it applies to one, let's say, rice, will apply to every other rice. Tailor making the gases is part of the understanding of the technology, and I think with it will come the nourishment. And what you have shown here in past 3 years, we've seen data which you continuously produce with the experiments. It is very interesting because it confirms a lot of things which we have considered to be happening now. We have it physically there, and we've done some of these tests ourselves in the past year to see what elements has increased, what elements has reduced. In reality, I think if you, in your next trial, change some of the gases, what you got to do is look at the natural elements in the product, like the level of the zinc, the level of calcium, silica, and the rest of it, and design your gases to enhance those conditions. The way it is now is more or less randomly. The scientific world is, as we just seen, shows the level of materials in each product. So now that we become wise to it and random shot can be taken out of it, is okay. An apple has so much calcium, it's got calcium, potassium, blah, blah, blah. And then we use those gases in that target. We can increase a specific, we want to increase the calcium in a fruit. We want to increase potassium in another one. Now that we have become knowledgeable, now we have to target. And this will show a totally different harvest. But we got to understand there is a phenomena, there is a logic in the world of the creation, especially of the plants is that there is a certain size a plant can carry so much on its leaf, for example, these radishes, that we do not go through the compromise of one to be less than the others. Protein shows a limitation, but everything else, if you increase magnesium, the plant might show reduction in potassium or calcium. Do we need that reduction? Or we can compromise it. But in general, we see increases in a lot of materials, a lot of elements, but where you see usually reduction in one is part of the housing shared in that plant with another element. So if you see the magnesium with the potassium, if the magnesium goes high, does the potassium go high? But these two work together. So you have to decide. Each plant, what I call the vertical people, have a capacity size. We might grow them bigger and then they have more of in percentage wise. And these are the things which we need to consider. We have to observe these nutritional values, and as we see, we can target what we want to increase. The level of the materials we want, now that the knowledge has grown, we can go targeting what we want to increase. This is important because in the long run, on this planet, we are looking for using what our ancestors did. Now we say we eat the same apple, you need to eat 3 of it to get this, so 4 of it to get the same as years ago. Now with this technology, we can bring it to that time without any what you call fertilizers or whatever. But is our body ready to take 4 times more calcium now than before? Are the plants responding to man's need?
Mr. Kesh, I noticed something here in relation to that. If you look at the 2 main ones that are decreased, the potassium and the sodium, well, those are the things that people in life are trying to decrease in their diet. We're told to use less sodium and less potassium as the salts, that people use too much of. So perhaps this is a way to reduce those items in the diet just through the produce that we're eating. So it's a benefit in this case to have a reduction, is what I'm saying, rather than always going for an increase.
You see, we get a lot of our things through the other plants or other food. The body will find the balance of itself, but are the plants responding to our condition we have created? And then they see the need of the man. You got to realize one of the beautiful things about vertical people is, you know how they stretch out their arms, or the flower that birds can see them, or the, what do you call it, the flies or the bees can see them. They make themselves beautiful to attract. Are they changing in a way that we get attracted to them? And is it what we need? And there is a lot of research needs to be done. But in so many ways, the science of technology of the feeding is changing. In the coming time, I'll announce a lot of new development in respect to agriculture, or what we call feeding of the nations. If we see this is the level of calcium or whatever, is this what happened when you put an orange on and you create the fields of it and then you taste the orange? And do we need to build so many factories and chemicals and pesticides to grow the orange where we can transfer the energy of the orange in the replication of the field across the city. This is how we're going to feed you in the space. Why not start it early? Would we see people don't feel like eating because they already received the energy? There are some tests going on which we are observing, we'll announce it in time coming, that can we sort this when we understand this, then we see what is there, become as part of the process of disaster relief, so relief feeding the people. Can we transfer antibiotics this way? Can we transfer energy of growth of the soul of the man? Now we put people in prison because of part of the condition between soul of them and the physicality soul. Can we get away with imprisonment and reach the level of the soul of the man to the point that you bring the soul to the point that it doesn't do any crime? You don't need to create prisons. Through nutrition, we can bring that point of peacefulness. There are no prisons in the universe. Why man has made it? Why do we do all sorts of things to each other because there is not there? It's the same with a lot of things. Food and understanding of the transfer of the energy of what we consume in the dimension of the energy to the gans is the only answer in the universe or on this planet in the coming time. As they say, the man will spend more time for leisure than ever works because his needs are met. This is part of what we call this new, what we call the research center for the world, what we call excellent scientists, has started. And the aim is to get to that point. The structure which now we are working will bring the elite scientists of the planet to create a condition of peace for the world leaders, that the wars become fast. We can do it, but you have to understand how to interpret these data, how to use it. And as knowledge seekers, a lot of you are scientists. And you can come up, you can see a solution. Why not? And if we can help you to develop it, help you to come in and bring it in, it'll be different. In a coming time, we'll make knowledge, participation in development of the knowledge, a pleasure to be part of, and not to pay to become. We don't need to have universities and to understand the work of the GANs. We need to be educated in the universe of the knowledge of the universe to understand the work of it. And with this, these are beautiful. These datas, when we see it, understand it, then understand what it does. When you see increase in zinc, what does that do? What do we do with people with a mental condition? We give them more of one or the other. What about the ones who have deformities? The work of the Keshe Foundation in medical application through food, or we call through energy, has to become paramount. And reports like this puts data on the table. And because now we start, these papers will be published in the journal. Gradually, I send people, says, you want to know research done, is there as the scientist has done. No peer reviewing. And then we look at it. We have to start interpreting data. The way, how can we change it? And what do we have with the new knowledge that we can bring it about? Thank you very much, James. This is fantastic. This is a gift for people like me who's looking for new solutions, new ways, and your work has been fantastic. Thank you very much for your contribution in Knowledge Seekers.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions you want to ask from Jim? Silence.
I was wondering if Jim had any ideas why the potassium and sodium would have decreased in the plasma radish samples.
Well, as you said earlier, Rick, the decrease in sodium can be a positive because of, obviously also sodium in plants can be quite high. Too much sodium in the plant can be quite toxic. So, to me, this decrease is possibly a positive. When I look at the boron changes there, again, it's probably I've said here, yeah, I can't remember where, but the boron and carbon are so close together that probably is a bit of an interchange between the boron and carbon. And again, these are just snapshots in time, and if we'd taken the same set of results maybe 2 or 3 days later, we might see quite a difference here again.
And I'm just going to add one thing here because I'm sitting next to Jim. Hi, everybody, it's Lisa. And one also has to remember that we do feed these plants a nutrient formula, and they are made up of certain salts, because that's how hydroponic formulas work. They are a mixture of salts and minerals. And so maybe by using the GANs with the nutrient, it somehow regulated the nutrient to what the plant wanted, possibly.
Or to what the humans wanted, like Mr. Kesh mentioned. Perhaps do you guys have high sodium and potassium levels in your blood that need to be reduced?
Not that I know of, but maybe I must check, because yeah.
Are you using too much salt on your meals?
You've got to tell me something.
Interesting, though. I thought that was a great comment that Mr. Kesh made about that the plants may know what we need as humans. And from all that I've read, that's, high sodium is a big problem for many people. That's leads to heart tension and that kind of thing. So perhaps this is the answer. And obviously, as Mr. Kesh pointed out, the zinc, which is up 41%, the magnesium, which is up, it's the same virtually, 42%, calcium and so on, but especially the zinc, which affects emotion and the connection with the brain and so on. So that seems really important. If you're at the same time reducing the heart tension, the hypertension, all that hyper excitedness, but adding in the calmness and peacefulness through the zinc and so on, I think you have an antidote to many of the issues in society now, which are related to those very things. So this is like, this might be prescribed in the near future. Doctors will prescribe, oh, you must have plasma fruits and vegetables are mandatory for you, and make sure you always select the plasma radishes and the plasma potatoes when you select your vegetables next time when you're shopping. So perhaps this is the way to go.
Well, I'm sure just like places around the world, you've got your organic section in the supermarket, and you will have your plasma section with all your produce grown.
I think that is coming up. That's not some. This is on the card. This is just in the coming time. What we call the GANs technology farming, the bio and the GANs production. This is something we are talking about in many meetings. a new way of new product. We call the GANs product. It's amazing. A lot of people know about it. I had a extremely interesting meeting today. We were in a meeting and with a lady, and she was talking about her friend has told her about the GANs and this and that. And then she asks the people who were with me, "Who is this guy?" And so this is Mr. Cassius. My friend has told me about it. Very normal condition. The technology has spread right across, and she says she knows it because she's somebody who reads about the technology has told her for she had a pain in her ankle, and they said it works. And she says, "I want to know more." A lot of people are following, but we have to put the conditions right that people understand to do the right way. And I'm sure I looked at your data, because when we use gases, we always look to increase the harvest. But we see, as you said, we compromise between the quality and the quantity. But there is a way that you can increase both. But you have to find what does the radish needs to grow bigger. In wheat and rice, we have the recipe. We know. Current trials show us clearly. So you have to find what increases the what do you call it, the production, and how much by and why, and what reduce the size, or what do you call it, the weight of the material. These are the things farmers can use themselves and see it. There is a pest control section into the agriculture. We introduce a pest control in a very effective way. It's been tried, and the process is very simple. You can use the what we call the GANs as a pesticide in a very effective way. If it doesn't work, you can design it. You design the process, and it works, because I show you. I have no, I cannot go that way. I have to go some other way. Just give me a chance. Can you stop sharing if you don't mind? I show you, because I know Jim had some experience with this pest control with the frogs. And you can create a condition that you don't kill, but you move them on in a very simple way using the understanding of the technology. I show you very simple. These are actually done. This is a harvest. If you look at it, this is, you can see the date. It's this year. And then you look at this one. Yeah. Now look at this. The day before, the day after, and look at 21st, totally gone. You can see at the bottom is the KSW research, and if you know how to handle it, this is a lost harvest. How farmer is done. You can see 19th of the 3rd. You see 20th and 21st. Total cost in cents. But you have to understand, you can create the same condition in the springtime when you need the flies to come and pollinate. You can increase. There is a problem at the moment. They talk about the bees shortage and the farmers and the rest of it. But you can create a condition that allows bees to grow, to be created, to be there. And these are the practical work which has been done. And you see it in 2 days. Nothing was, and nothing used, no chemicals used, just using the plasma technology. The harvest cleans up. It's the same process, we don't need to kill. And understanding it, how to handle it, you change the environment. But the question is, did they fly to the farm next door? Because you can't find them on the floor, they're not dead. It's very, very interesting how we have to analyze and display these things. These are all done by Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers. These are their farms, they tested. And no harvest lost, no farmer losing income. But we have to learn. This is a beginning of a massive scientific revolution. Massive. It's going to touch us in every aspect: agriculture, health, energy. And can we make a unified system? Earth is a unified system, creates light, energy, shelter, everything we call it. And our knowledge has reached that point. We can do it. It's done. It's just knowing how to apply and what to apply, the way you apply it. It's interesting, even in the massive scale farming, we see huge differences. And these are controlled environments which we are part of the Keshe Foundation involved in. This is, I'll show you because we are part of one structure. This is what you see. Harvest, this is before planting. And you see the difference. You can see, and if you go further, you don't need much to know what's the difference between the harvest. And you don't know, or you can't tell the difference between what we call the rice. This is a rice field. This is a large scale rice growing. If you open up and look at the picture, you see the stems and you see the stems. Plants is producing more and is ahead by weeks. Gradually you save time and energy and material. No fertilizer. If you look at the tip of the vegetation, you can see the difference and look at the strength of it. We can look at the thickness of the stems. But you have to tailor make these things. And then you see the harvest. If the target is harvest increasing or target is quality increasing, we can do all this now. It is the beauty of the new technology. And then you clean the land, as James said. When you look at it, it's totally different. Now we've done enough broad teaching. Now we have to get to a specific and create that condition that specifically we can do. We need the harvest. Which harvest? What is the need of a nation? It's no use growing potatoes where nobody touches potatoes, hardly any. Thank you very much, Jim. It's fantastic what you put there.
Thanks for that additional information.
You're welcome. There is a lot to be done. As I said, we are working. Actually, we were asked to start putting the scientific group together for research, and how we're going to do it. And we try to make the research excellence center in China for the world scientists and not only Chinese. This is needed that we spread the knowledge, and the prejudices and the patterns goes out of the window, but it brings benefit to all of us. Is our journal ready to go on, or do you still need time?
It is ready.
Okay, shall we hand it over to you? Would you like to go ahead?
Yes, I'm gonna share the screen. Does everybody see?
Yes, we can see that, Ella.
Okay, that's great. If I lose my voice in between, just I apologize, but bear with me. So we are at the 12th edition of